Hi, everyone. Welcome to our panel of the current condition of sustainable fashion and future expectation. And we'll wait a few more minutes for people to join us. Thank you for waiting. Okay. Hi, everyone. Uh, Welcome to this panel opening the second digital Eco Fashion Week about the current conditions and future expectation in the sustainable fashion industry. This panel is also broadcasted live on our YouTube page, on the event website, and on our LinkedIn event as well. Diraz, I'd like to invite you to start the panel.
Sure. Hi, everybody. We're very excited to be here. So the panelists can also reveal themselves as well. And I would like to welcome all of you to this panel. This is actually the second digital Eco Fashion Week produced by designers2buyers.com, who is a wholesale online platform for sustainable, ethical, and slow fashion commerce. Today, our panel is about the current conditions and future expectations in the sustainable fashion industry. So as Ori said, my name is Liraz Cohen Mordechai, and I'm going to be your host for today. I'm a fashion lecturer and writer and the owner of Fascinating by Leary, a company dedicated to empower Israeli fashion brands and designers. So, to our topic. In the recent year, we've been through a lot globally, from climate disruptions, such as the one that we just witnessed in Texas, with people have no electricity, to elections in the US, to, of course, the biggest game changer, COVID-19. Who is probably the most wide-reaching public health crisis our world has faced in a long time. So back in 2019, already the topic of sustainable fashion was in the minds of shoppers and brands, and obviously also the media. Business of Fashion report that sustainability is part of the biggest trends to expect in 2020, and we see that also going on for 2021. But what we're fascinated about in this panel today is what all of these changes that happened in the recent year going to make to sustainable fashion. Will it enhance programs and efforts around sustainability, or will it actually make brands that care about issues such as sustainable material sourcing, carbon reduction, and workers' right to kind of put that in the back burner because they have other things and challenges to face currently? So today we have with us 4 panelists who care deeply about transforming the fashion industry into a better and more sustainable one. I would like each and every one of them to introduce themselves, Vincent, Atniel, and Roberto. And since each one of them is located in a different area geographically, maybe each one of you, when you introduce yourself, maybe you can tell us a little bit of what's going on and the current conditions in your local area. So who would like to start?
I will go.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent. I'm actually located in Shanghai, China right now. And what I do is that in sustainable fashion is that I do 3 things. I have a family business called Chenkong Garments. What we do is we produce for high-end and contemporary brands in Europe and the US using sustainable material and also transparent factories. And we're also a SAC Higg Index member. Another thing I do is that I have a small startup with my friend that 2.5-year-old startup called Remakeup. What we do is that we upcycle and recycle textile, shoes, and plastic waste, turn them into new products or go back to the supply chain. We've done something like turning used fishing nets into sunglasses, shoes, old shoes into store fixtures, and so on. And the last thing I do is that I do a lot of coaching and mentoring for fashion startups in China. So with what I see here now with the COVID and everything is that this past year and a half, the sustainable fashion is the topic, and actions have really taken up in picking up in China. A lot of the young brands, even the big brands, they are increasingly paying a lot of attentions in the sustainable fashion, especially having a transparent supply chain, and also using more eco-friendly materials. And that it's even that sustainable lifestyle is actually spilling over into other industries like cosmetics and so on. We have some clients talk to us that they want to upcycle, reuse their those plastic jars for the beauty industry. So I think it's really picking up. I think in China this year or next year will be like the tipping point where it will be becoming more and more mainstream. Thanks.
Thank you, Vincent.
Cool. I'll go next then. So hi everyone. My name is Atniel Gedge. I'm based in Israel, but actually representing a German-based company called Made to Flow. I'm the co-founder and chief product officer in the company. Basically, what we do is we help both brands and supplier to measure the environmental impact. We do data gathering, data validation, and automation in different processes to make it happen quickly and easily. As per your question, I'm wondering to which geographical region to answer, but technically, look, in Israel, the situation is a bit complex. Essentially, consumers are starting now. You can see really that there's a shift in the past 2 years, where 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, no one was talking about it. And now consumers are really starting to be more aware and talking. And especially Israel has suffered an eco disaster in the past week that led to the fact that after that, people starting to think, oh, it kind of matters and think. They will need some time to connect it to fashion. Yeah, that will take some time. The larger corporations are definitely not there. They're completely blind. But what's interesting is the younger design generation, there it's a crazy shift. I haven't seen that happening so fast in almost anywhere, in the sense that you have so many new upcycling businesses, and all sorts of younger labels that really want and try to do, but essentially still trying to figure out what this umbrella term of sustainability really means. And I think that will take some time, but as consumers start to educate themselves a bit more, there'll be a huge shift in the coming 2-3 years.
Thank you. I can't agree with you more. I'm located now in Israel after a couple of years in the US, and you really feel the change, at least here in the region. And all of a sudden, there are more and more names that care deeply about sustainable fashion and trying to be more active. Thanks, Othniel. Roberto.
Hi, my name is Roberto, and I am the co-founder of Marise Eco Couture. With my mother is a designer of the brands. This project was born 5 years ago from desire to create an alternative brand and reflects important values such as respect and environment and natural researches. Inspired by the area we live in, which is surrounded by nature and the Trasimeno Lake National Park. The choice of using eco-sustainability fabric seems natural to us. So, having been present in the fashion world from more than 30 years as a producer and collaborating with major brands such as Roberto Cavalli, Tots, and Zegna. We have decided to enter this wonderful world of sustainable fashion. And for a second question, the situation is stable. Some areas in Italy have suffered local lockdown, and we are currently in the red zone. So with Dubit, we hope that this situation will be resolved as soon as possible, with the hope the vaccines will bring a positive effect.
Yeah, wow, I can't agree with you more. I think this is the hope of everyone. To Othniel's point, Othniel, you mentioned like kind of the umbrella of sustainable fashion and trying to figure out what is the umbrella and where do I see myself. I wonder, because you're all activists in the sustainable fashion world, but what does that even mean to you? What is the thing that you're focused on or that you think that everyone else should be focusing on when we're talking about sustainable fashion? There's a lot of different things, but Othniel, you're already smiling, so maybe you'll start first.
Look, for me, it's simple. First of all, sustainability in many ways is the wrong term because it's a bit complex and used in ways which are not entirely correct. I think the real issue here is about value-based consumption. So from a consumer standpoint, I put my money where I care or something that I believe in. So it's not just about buying something useful, pretty, or whatnot, but actually what it means that to me as a greater value or not doing something that I disagree with. Yeah. But essentially with sustainability, the big thing for me is at the end of the day, science-based targets, right? So without the science, without science-based targets, without assigning numbers to things, it's meaningless. It's just a giant greenwash and we're going to tell very pretty stories, but it's not going to change anything and we're going to stay exactly where we were before. So the number one thing is to actually understand have everyone a common language And my background is merchandising. So unfortunately for everyone, for me, a common language is math. It's numbers, yeah. But I know that may seem crazy, but it essentially can be a common language also for consumers when done properly, yeah.
Vincent, maybe you want to continue?
Okay, yeah. For me is we do manufacturing, so we do the upcycling and recycling. So what I really focus on the sustainability part, it's because sustainability is really big. There's like a 17 SDG goal, so we really focus on is the reusing, the least impact on the environment. So, and also making sure the workers are working in a safe and and pay well in the condition. So that's what I really focus on. When I talk to the startup brands, they all have different angle of what they see in sustainability. Today, I was talking to a startup brand in China, and then he's doing some very urban outerwear, so very urban active outerwear. So his idea of sustainability is that, okay, you only need to buy my jacket just once or twice. That's it, because our jacket is so well made with very high quality fabrics that won't tear down easily. So I think because sustainability is so big, so wide, I think it's we can all focus on certain parts of it and do well in it, and then I think we can, because I don't think we can be 100% on everything. It's sustainability is a long-term thing. We have to keep on improving. So focus on a few and then do the best we can. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Good points. Roberto?
Do you repeat the answers, the question?
Yeah, sure. I'm just asking, there's a lot of different factors and different things that are inside this type of umbrella of sustainable fashion. So I'm just wondering if there is anything in specific that you focus on, or that you think that we should, as society, as humanity, focus on when it comes to sustainable fashion. So Atniel mentioned the idea of science, and I think Vincent was talking about each one should pick its own way and get us one step closer to a better world. What is your approach?
Okay.
I'm gonna skip.
Yes, my assistant.
Pablo is the translator also. Hi, Pablo.
Okay, in my opinion, in recent years, we have seen a greater increase in news on the worsening of climate changes, and this has certainly led to greater awareness of our actions, thus leading many consumers to have an eco-conscious. So surely to counter this type of consumer culture, quality standards must be raised and increase eco-sustainable products on the market. And yeah, let's say sustainable fashion trends follow classic fashion trends. We as Marise will try the new collection to increase our classic fabrics with patterns and colors such as nettle, bamboo, linen, and recycled polyester. And yeah, that's what
so you're focusing on materials as
yeah.
Okay. So what I hear a little bit from Vincent, actually from your perspective, and I have to say that I thought that Atniel will say that as well, but I should have known that he will say science. But I hear a lot about regulations, maybe, because you talked about pay well, the safety in factories. So all of these things you can say that maybe they can be solved by regulation and with policymakers. So before we'll go to policymakers, I'm just curious to hear from you. We talked a little bit about the different regions that each one of you is from, but one region that we did not included is the US, North America. And there were some changes in the past year, including the election for presidency of Joe Biden, who basically rejoined back to the Paris agreements and putting back the whole idea of climate change as a top priority for America. I'm wondering if you think that this old new approach in the US will make a change in the sustainable fashion world, or do you think that it's like way in like 5-10 years from now and they will focus on other things as well? Feel free to jump in, whoever wants to answer.
Yeah, I'll take a crack on that. Yeah, I think it's a very strong gesture, shows that they are serious about it. I think so. I think it will push the private sector and also to do more. And I think because the vice president is Kamala Harris from California. I used to live in California for 8 years, so it's very progressive. They do a lot of things that more strict, like emission rules, more eco-friendly compost and things like that. So I think some of this progressiveness on the in terms of sustainability, especially on the environmental side, it will probably spread to other parts of the US and make more consumers to be more aware of. Yeah, and I'm already starting to see big retailers, big box retailers, because we work with some of the retailers in the US, and we are seeing that they are really taking more serious look and approach into sustainability by using more sustainable materials, and by using it still they want the transparency from that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a bottom-up kind of a thing, or do you think that it will go also top-down? Neil, maybe you wanna add?
Look, I must say that the US is not relevant. I'll explain why.
Tell me.
There's very little production in the US, and there's honestly only California matters. So you have production on the West Coast and on the East Coast, right? And you still have quite a few nice facilities in the Carolinas, which is great, but they lost their strength in quite the last few years. What could be a seismic change is SB 62, a regulation that's been the second time round going in California, trying to get essentially the brands to be responsible for all production. So if there's a facility that is at fault, then the brand that they produce for will be liable as well, right? So I'm kind of simplifying a very complex regulation. If that passes, that will change a lot, and that will have implications because the next natural step is to extend it even outside of the boundaries of the US, yeah? But apart from that, the US plays a very little role here, and the likelihood of regulations, if you want carbon trade and things like that, they're not there, and it's not going to get anywhere in a global matter. And from that perspective, there's only two regions that really matter. It's China is number one, and China is doing way more than what most people think. And after that is the European Union, because the European Union is cooking up a crazy regulation for the coming next 5 years, and everyone should be aware because that's going to be giant game changers. The only thing is that the European Union hasn't decided if the keyword is sustainability or circularity, which sometimes, as seen by the regulator and misunderstood by the regulator, may create contradictions.
Very interesting. I think that also when you're talking about regulations in Europe,
Yeah.
that's going to affect a lot of big brands, the big names that we know of. So I'm just wondering, what do you think are kind of the challenges that young designers or up-and-coming designers are facing versus the big brands when it comes to sustainable fashion? What are the advantages and disadvantages of each one of the sides?
Look, for example, sustainability is not a small brand game anymore. Actually, sustainability is the greatest differentiator in the industry right now and in the coming years, but it's being hijacked by the bigger brands. And it's such a complex thing that small brands have real difficulties to play the same level of game that the big brands are gonna bring. And essentially the giant corporates are bringing a completely different level game for the coming next 5 years. So that will force the smaller brands to come up with very creative ways to change and to be willing to have different business models and have a completely different outlook. So essentially the small brands that will be flexible enough in mind could do very interesting things, but it's a big unknown. They cannot play the same game that the big brands can do.
Yeah, Roberto, what do you think? You're representing the small brand, eco brand. Yeah, tell us.
Okay, I'm happy that an important nation like the US is joining. I'm answering to the past question. Okay, that is joining the Paris Agreement. It's a choice that can bring benefits to all sectors and perhaps create greater sensitivity to environmental issues in other countries as well. And big brands have strong commercial structure on their side and greater impact communication, even if the product does not have real values of eco-sustainability. This is because they insert an eco-sustainable product into an old product mechanism that knows how to exploit only natural and human resources without control. So, and this is definitely an advantage that young designers or brand have, which is to start from scratch and create a product that is truly eco-friendly, from the choice of materials to the use of low environmental impact work techniques. So that's what we think.
So you see, but what are the challenges? I mean, obviously there is the advantage of being new, like you don't have the infrastructure that you need to rebuild once again. Like you can plan the way that your supply chain is working right from the beginning, as you mentioned. What are some challenges for young designers when they're facing this aim to be sustainable?
The challenge, there are many challenges. So for my opinion, I can suggest them to use product that has certifications for, and
we use the fabric for creating the new brands. The young designer is concentrato, yes, on the materials and use only fabrics with the certification, example GOTS or Global Recycle Standard. And they use the commercial parts who respect laboral laws.
Interesting. Thank you so much. So maybe let's jump now to the future of sustainable fashion. And I'm just wondering, and we had also a question from the audience about, can we even go 100% sustainable? Is it even something that that makes sense, that it's possible? What will happen? Like fast fashion will vanish from the world in some point, or do you think that it will stay? There's a purpose for fast fashion to keep on going. What do you think?
I'll jump into that one. First of all, fast fashion is disappearing, and we're in the age of super fast fashion. So to just explain the little difference between them is that super fast fashion means smaller, it's a direct to consumer concept, so online, native online, and much smaller quantities and reaction to the market in a much faster pace. Yeah. So you have a lot of these brands that you think you find only on Instagram and so on, and they're popping up and they're giant, yeah, much bigger than what people think. And the idea that someone wants to have new things or different things on a more regular base, that's not disappearing. Or the idea is that I want to have something of value as in lower price, yeah. That's definitely not disappearing. I mean, I remember when I started my studies of fashion management like 20 years ago, they told us, they invented this amazing thing. It's called fast fashion, and it's going to solve all the problems because suddenly you can afford stuff.
Democratizing fashion.
Yeah, and conceptually that is true. It comes with a horrendous price of destroying people and planet, yeah? But there are ways to do it. So it's not disappearing, it's evolving, it's changing. Fast fashion morphed to this ginormous beast that it's a game that only few can win and most will eventually lose, as we see with the retail apocalypse, yeah? And as to 100% sustainable, I don't know what that means, but it's an ongoing effort, right? It's about learning all the time. No one understands fully what it means, yeah? And when you think about it, most brands know the tier one, so the cut and sew, the final assembly of the clothes. So how can we speak about fully sustainable when we barely know the tier three? No one visits their facilities where the dyeing is happening, the yarn or whatever. So, you know, we have quite a bit more to go. And that's why also I hate the game of net zero. We make a product, we have an impact, and we need to take responsibility of this impact. And again, that's why offsetting is a brilliant idea by corporates, but it's not a real thing. The game will be insetting, so changing in the supply chain and reducing in the supply chain. That's step by step. And I know it's boring to improve 5% every year, yeah, but there's no other way, and there's no one day we create a miracle of no impact. We make a product, there is an impact. We just need to understand how to reduce it with time. That's it.
Yeah, I think I think I told you once that one of the things that I heard once is that if we're making products and we're talking about sustainability, the best practice that we can use on ourselves is just to not be exist as a brand, as a designer. This is the only way you can get to the net zero that you mentioned. This is the only way, because if you're making products, as you said, it's a journey to be better, but not necessarily.
Look, it's essentially a shift in perception, right? So we need to look at things in a different way. We need to acknowledge and be honest with ourselves that if I'm going to consume whatever it is that I'm consuming, I have an impact on the world. I go out of the door, I'm going to have an impact on the people I meet around. And it's my choice how this impact is going to look like, right? So as a consumer, I can choose to buy this versus this. And as a brand or a producer, I can choose to try and do it differently. Yeah, because there's the business side and they don't always coexist. So it's trying and how fast can you do things. But, you know, we cannot forget that. There's no magic.
Right. Thanks. Vincent, what about you? I know you have many hats that you can see these questions through. So I wonder, what is your perspective?
Yeah, I really agree. It's sustainable is really a long journey. I don't think we'll ever get 100% because it's physics, right? And there's no perfect machine. So sustainability, a lot of it, it's a science, it's chemistry, so that's, I don't think it can get into 100%. But what we can do is to improve over time and getting better and better. Like he said, it's super fast fashion now. Yeah, I call it fast fashion 2.0. And I think with data, we will produce even quicker because we'll react to the market quicker. So we react to trends, where trends is coming from social media. It's no longer coming from a fashion magazine. So it will just be so quick and it changes all the time. And so what can we do? People want these new things. So we can only hope that we can make our supply chain to be more efficient. Like I see it's a kind of a new industrial revolution. How can we keep on making things, but yet have the lowest impact on this planet possible? Otherwise, we won't be able to live another day to buy these things. So, and I have done a carbon footprint analysis for a down jacket for one of our key product before, and it's the result was surprising because it wasn't as high as I thought, because down jacket is relatively lightweight. And then when I look into the offsetting options, is my hands are quite tied, because besides planting trees, plantation, I don't want to buy credits, because I think that's just I don't really like that way. Besides buying credits, planting trees, that's the only way is to make my production process more efficient. But that means I have to change the dyeing process, find the machines, which normally there's no like perfect machines there, and change the machines, change the way of making, and the energy I use. A lot of it is energy use, and I can only get so much renewable energy out of my grid. So my hands are tied, and okay, if there are solutions, there will be a cost, and the cost is not cheap. It's not a small, medium-sized manufacturer or small brand can afford. It's only big corporations can help the supply chains. I really think is that the work towards more sustainability. Corporations, they're now issuing green bonds. They can maybe use those cheaper financing costs because they're big corporations, and help their supply chains to have a lower financing cost and improve their efficiency, improve the machines, and to get there quicker. Yeah, because I don't even planting trees is it's not a sure thing, because you plant 100 trees, not all of them can survive. That's one thing. And all the trees, you cannot plant only one type of tree at that place, because that's not biodiversity. You have to plant different type of trees and so on. So it's not a sure thing either. So it's a complicated thing, and we can only do it, keep on improving and keep working hard on it. And yeah, that's how I see it. Thanks.
Interesting and kind of depressing that your hands are tied, but I mean, this is reality, I guess.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's sometimes I sit back and it's like, what else I can do to lower my impact and so on. Yeah.
At least your heart is in a good place, so that's good.
Yeah.
Roberto?
Thanks.
I agree both with Vincent and Adria about this. And I believe that many fashion products will have a significant increase in sustainability. But I believe also that the reality is that such as fast fashion will continue to exist, as there will always be a demand for these low cost and high environmental impact products. Many countries that doesn't have this eco-conscious, and such in Italy, they will not waste resources for eco-sustainability. There are no fund for it, and as Vincent said, it's not cheap, so it's impossible to be 100% ecologic. So it's
So maybe if we'll try to get us all a little bit more optimistic when we're talking about maybe smaller brands, up and coming designers, do you have some tips that you can share with them on how to be, as you said, it's a journey, but maybe what are the things that they need to focus on, or where to start even? What can they do?
Well, I think the number one thing is to remember it's a business, and the business goal is to have wonderful products for people. Yeah. And there's a tendency to forget that. And that's the number one thing. Have amazing product, concentrate on the product. That never changed. That needs to be an amazing product that people will love. A product that people have an emotional connection to is the most sustainable thing that you can think of. Afterwards, I would say two things. One, I apologize, but I recycle an advice from Yael Aflalo, which founded Reformation, where she says quite several times, basically, make a list of your top 10 environmental things that you would want to do in your brand, arrange them from easy to hard, and start working. But never approach everything, yeah? And there's, because I see young designers and they break their head about like packaging and thread and things like that. I'm like, A, impact wise, that's not the big thing. And B, what are you nuts? Like there's bigger thing, big picture, yeah? Concentrate on big picture. And don't fall into the preferred material trap, okay? Because there's, this, everyone talk about, oh, I'm going to use this material so everything is fine, yeah? But here on the panel, you have amazing producers, and they understand that it's not just the material that they put in their machines, by how it runs, the heat that they use, and the energy, and the actual type of machine, and the chemicals, and and fashion is chemical heavy and so on, yeah? And chemicals are not necessarily bad, but which one you're using, and are you recycling them? Do you have an ETP, and so on? These are the things that matter. So the thing is, I would just concentrate on something and try to be super creative. Forget what you were taught in design school, yeah? Because most of them are still a bit behind. A raw material can look like anything. You know, Vincent mentioned the startup that he has and about things that he does and so on. And sorry, and so basically doing that. 1 second, sorry.
That's okay. Vincent, maybe you want to continue because you're also consult young designers. So where should they start?
Yeah, you have to build a sustainable business first. Make sure your business will survive, and you want to focus on 2 or 3 key core value first, instead of trying to do everything, because even a big corporation cannot do everything. So focus on a few key where it's close to your heart, and then you think it brings the most impact, and make sure you have a strong business plan that will survive. Otherwise, you cannot bring a sustainable fashion needs a sustainable business. So without a sustainable business, you cannot have sustainable fashion.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Roberto?
Yeah. Niente, no, questo qua gli dici che comunque è importante la materia prima, insomma,
Okay.
l'utilizzo.
Could you please repeat the question so I will answer? Okay.
Yeah, just in terms of, we were all talking and we were kind of upset of the fact that our hands are tied for so many different factors and issues when it comes to sustainable fashion. So when we're talking about smaller brands that not necessarily have the options and the means to do all of the changes, what is your advice for smaller brands on what should they focus on to be more sustainable? Do you have any tips, as you already have your established brand, so maybe things that you've learned along the way that will help other designers?
Yeah. Even if I'm not a designer, I can advise you to try to use products that has certification and to rely on commercial partners who respect labor laws and
Materiale importante.
the material fabrics is very important, and yeah, that's
Yeah.
it.
So I wonder, when we're talking not about the
Yeah.
brands themselves, Neil, yeah.
Do you mind if I add two tiny things?
Sure, yes.
Sorry. I would just recommend two small things to remember. One, choose a close production partner and stick to them. Yeah, marry yourself with a production partner that you trust and go and live there. Yeah, stay as much as you can, talk to them as much as you can. You'll learn from them, you'll get a better product. The second thing is that business models can be different. Don't fall into the trap of the old business models. I have to produce a large quantity and then push the product without knowing if the consumer actually wants it. Try to think creative on that. And there's a lot of new business models of renting, of subscription, of, more made to order, which is a bit old and new at the same time. There's a lot of different things. Just don't stick to the old pattern. Try to do something else. Yeah. And because the old patterns, they don't work. So anything away from that might work better than that. Sorry.
I know that's a good point. And I think that's also something that definitely will differentiate you from the big brands. So that's another point. So maybe we're almost at the end of our panel, but just for our listeners, even if they're not designers themselves, but obviously they care about the topic, what are some of like the fundamental questions that we need to ask ourselves before we purchase anything? Because Aniel, for example, you mentioned the focus on materials, but we don't necessarily know, as you said, the heat, the energy, all of these type of things. There's no way for us to know all of these things. So is there even a way, is there even some kind of a calculator for us to look at and to know what we should, who should be our brands that we need to be loyal to?
Okay, when you say calculator, I really want to say our calculator product is soon on the market.
Oh, okay.
But I'll put that aside for a second. That's really complex issue, actually. But look, for consumers, it's easy for me. You need to ask brands and search for brands with certain cues, of things they do. Number one is traceability. Yeah. So does the brand tell you who makes their clothes and how much they're telling you? Are they transparent about just who is sewing the clothes? So look at, if we talked about the US market, Everlane with radical transparency, which is not radical anymore. Yeah, saying who sewed it without saying who made the fabric, who made the yarn, who dyed, and so on. That's just really old way of doing business. And today you have more and more, you have quite a lot of brands that actually communicate and have traceability maps and so on. And second thing is listen carefully to what they're saying, and are they, for example, saying numbers? So like Vincent said that they calculated and measured the carbon and stuff. And like measurement is a very complex issue and can be argued, but are they actually assigning numbers? And that is the same with social. Are they saying the salaries of workers? Are they talking minimum wage or living wage? Are they saying the actual numbers of how much people earn? So the more that actual, real, substantial information that we're given by a brand, which is basically transparency, so traceability and transparency, that's what buys me as a consumer. It's very simple. Obviously, after a beautiful, amazing product. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. I believe that the main thing is to always look at the composition level and understand if the product has any certification to know the origin and the materials used, to know what we are wearing. So I think that there are many countries that makes better that are known for this eco-sustainability. And we from Marseille, we are focused on the materials. So so if you can, I don't know how to explain.
No, e anche dove è fatto.
Yeah, where the product is made, and
Informarsi anche sulle materie prime, il consumatore.
And the consumer has to know where the fabrics are coming from, and yeah, and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Vincent, do you want to add? You don't have to, but if you want.
Yeah, I think just consumers just learn more, and it's just from there are some good resources out there. For sure, it's not very greenwashing ones, or sometimes I think greenwashing is okay because it gets people aware about it. They need to start somewhere. They cannot be an expert overnight. So just consumer be more aware and raise questions, and brands nowadays, I see them, they are more engaged, and they want to listen, and the more the consumer asks where it's made, how you guys produce, how those workers treated, and things like that, the more they will be, oh, okay, we as the brands will improve their things. Yeah.
I think that what you all are saying is that the idea of being more aware as consumers and asking questions, that doesn't matter what is the question necessarily, but the fact that we're starting this journey and starting to ask more questions, raise the awareness of it from all sides, from the brands that they need to be more sustainable, from regulation that they need to keep up with that. So maybe since we have only a few minutes left, by the way, everyone in the audience, if you would like to write us questions in the chat box, feel free to do so. But before we'll go, I would like you to maybe just tell us for the predictions of you for the future of sustainable fashion, maybe in just like few words. Where do you see it heading? And do we have hope? Please say yes.
You know why we have hope?
Why?
And it's really strange to say that, but essentially there's two things, yeah, two ends of things. The younger generation is incredible, in my opinion.
Yes.
And they're a complete game changer. And I can tell you from working with larger corporates that they're terrified of the fact that they're not going to be able to have good employees because the younger generation wants an organization they believe in. That's a problem for big companies.
It's not only about the places that they buy their products from, but as a workforce, they want to choose the brands that they're working for.
And as a big corporate, you rely on, on the best of the coming to work for you. If they don't, then you're not going to work. You're not going to work as well anymore. And second thing is, this is very strange for me to say. And I'm not saying that because I'm originally French, but the fact that Macron managed to make everyone sign on science-based targets during the Paris Agreement, and I can tell you that the major brands signed it would have no idea what they're signing. They really had no clue. And they're waking up now with a terrible hangover of understanding that they need in the coming decade to reduce 30 to 50%. Like seriously, guys, you signed crazy stuff, 30 to 50% reduction on their CO2 and so on in the coming decade. And so everyone are like, holy shit, what am I going to do now? I don't even know what my baseline is. So I don't know what is my emissions right now. I need to reduce it. Yeah. So they're moving fast. It's the first time in like fashion history that I see that product departments are trying to piggyback to get on the budget of the sustainable department. That's crazy. Yeah. And at the same time, the younger generation are creating all sorts of crazy things, and they don't care about the old rules. So they're going to go and buy from completely different brands. We have brands that shot up to giant size in recent years and so on. So I'm very optimistic. It's a journey, and in the journey, if we were really low a couple of years ago, and if you want to look at Rana Plaza in Bangladesh, in Dhaka, as ground zero for the modern times, where we are now, crazy different. So I'm very optimistic. Just we need to have realistic expectations.
Yeah, I think it's I sometimes feel it's a bit too late, but there's still hope. We can rush things. Human are capable of doing that, and I think the next decade it's a golden age for not just for fashion, but for all consumer goods industry. We're gonna have so many new variation of products that it's no longer made in old ways. It will be more eco-friendly. It will make in a way that it wasn't seen since in the 50s or something before. So it's really a new revolution, and it's here to stay. So and the consumers will buy it. The young generations will buy it. Even the older, more affluent, they will buy it too, because people want to be seen as a sustainable consumer. So it's gonna get there. And this year, this 2 years, I'm seeing there are parts of the European. There are some countries in Europe where those brands are really they are really pushing hard, and some of them are like, okay, we need to start now, otherwise we'll be too late, or they will be won't be relevant in the market anymore. So some are playing more advanced, some are playing catch up, but it's good. It's a good way to go.
Yeah, thank you. Roberto?
Okay. Yeah. No. I agree. Agree for all, and it's very difficult, but it's come si dice? È difficile, insomma, vendere se non c'è un eco conscious. Cioè,
it's very difficult to sell products if there is no eco conscious.
Sì, no, quindi come diceva lui, no? Questi qui che comunque tutti sono svegliati le botte, no? Sono svegliati.
Everyone is not aware about what eco-sustainability is, and that's not easy for us to sell products all over the world. And yeah, we hope that in the next 10 years something will change. And yeah, many states
more sensitive.
Yeah, must have more sensibility about eco culture. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So this is the second Eco Fashion Digital Week. I hope that by the 10th Eco Fashion Digital Week we will see more changes coming. And I think you're all right. We're on the right path. It's a journey, and there's still a lot of things to do. But as you said, if we will look at where we were 10 years ago or 15 years ago, a lot have changed. And I think the number one thing that have changed really is the consumer mindset has changed, especially in the young generation. And that's like a cry of everyone to change the way we shop, to change the way that we produce. And I want to thank all of you, the three of you, for a really insightful conversation. Thank you for sharing your work and your activity and your perspective and insights with us. And I want to thank everyone here who participated in the second Eco Fashion Week produced by designerstobuyer.com. So thank you very much, and hope to see you in the next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.